elbows by Whittaker. Romero trying to get to full guard. Can't make it. Trying to get back up to his feet.
Outstanding groundwork from Whittaker down the stretch. Stand and cheer, ladies and gentlemen. Robert Whittaker and Yoel Romero go the distance in this UFC Interim Middleweight Championship fight tonight in Las Vegas.
Wow.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 33 of Combat Docket Radio. As always, this is Kurt and Ben here to break down everything going on in the MMA world from this week. What's going on today, Ben?
Not a lot, man. I am feeling good, very pumped about what UFC 225, man. How, like, it's been a long time since we've had a top to bottom, just really fucking good card.
Yeah, dude, we were, we do the picks for our website, and usually it's the, we just do like the main card. And for this one, we did the main card, the Overeem fight, and then the the Benavidez Pettis fight. And then I'm looking at the card, and I'm like, you got Claudia Gadelha, Carla Esparza on this card, Charles Oliveira, Clay Guida, and then, there's some. This is a stacked card, but again, we got to get to Saturday first. And we're gonna talk. We're gonna break down all these fights a little bit later in the episode, but we got to get there first. We got to make it past. What do you call weigh-in day? Like fight cancellation day?
I call it fight cancellation day. Yeah.
Yeah, we still got to get past that first.
And already, knock on wood as I say this, but Yoel Romero skipped his open workout apparently due to an eye problem.
Yeah, I did see that, and that is definitely not a good sign. But we'll see. I hope we can get there without anything crazy happening, because if this card can stay in place, this is one of the best cards of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've talked about it, or we were talking about it in the group chat a little bit, that like top to bottom, I think this might be the best card that the UFC can possibly put together now, even though it doesn't have like a mega star. There's no Conor, there's no Brock, there's no Jones, but I mean, those fighters just aren't available to the UFC right now. And this is honestly like one of the absolute best cards that they can put on right now.
Yeah, I agree, man. I mean, top to bottom, there's like two fights on this card, like the Mike's, no offense to these guys, but like the Mike Santiago, Dan Ice fight and the Rashad Coulter, Chris De La Rocha fight are meh. You know what I'm saying? Those are two, like, four guys that like are just way away from everything. It's like a filler, but you usually get like, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those per card. I mean, the rest of this card is just packed with prospects, big names, former champs.
Yeah.
This is a stacked card. I am pumped. But again, we got to make it past fight cancellation day and any other crazy, fighters taking elevators and falling in the shower. I mean, MMA is a crazy sport, and until we get to that cage, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
So the other day, and we're going to start this off a little bit differently. The other day, Ben had the pleasure of interviewing Mike the Truth Jackson, who is opening up the main card. He's going to be fighting, obviously, CM Punk. So we're going to play that in a second, Ben. But tell us a little bit about that interview before we get into it.
Honestly, man, I'm pretty blown away by how well spoken Mike Jackson is, and you'll hear in the interview that I flat out asked him, like, man, have you ever considered promoting fights or managing fighters? And he answers that, but he seems like a guy who he's really honest with himself as to where he is, in the sport. And he's really honest and open about like his goals in life and what he's good at and what he thinks he can bring to the sport. So, I think it's really interesting, and it's an interesting interview because it's not from just a normal everyday fighter. He's a really interesting guy in a very, very unique situation. So enjoy.
Yeah, I agree, man. I thought it was a great interview. So we're going to play that now.
I am now joined by Mike the Truth Jackson, who fights this Saturday at UFC 225. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Very, very good today, and I'm happy to be joined by you on Fight Week of all weeks. I guess first of all, how are you feeling? You know, it is fight week. It's been a while since you've been in the cage. How are you feeling?
Man, I feel great, man. This is just another day for me. Although I haven't competed in MMA, I've had a couple. I did boxing and Muay Thai, so I mean, I haven't been like doing nothing, since the last MMA fight.
Right. And that kind of leads me into what I want to ask first is how did you get involved with this I don't want to call it the CM Punk or Phil Brooks sweepstakes, but way back in 2016 when you fought Mickey Gall, how did you first get involved in this?
It's knowing the right people, and I've been building my brand up for quite a while, and the right place, right time, and knowing the right people.
All right, and I wanted to ask about. I'm glad that you said your brand, because before we get into the actual fight, I've heard you talk about the Mike the Truth brand. What exactly is that, and can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, man. So for people who don't know, I've been a media personality for 7-8 years, and I cover the sport. I'm a photographer. I do interviews, and so for me, this is just a way to build a brand. And when I say brand, it's everything that I do. Everything, it encompasses everything that I do as far as the media personality photography. And I use my platform to help other fighters. These up and coming prospects. Before they even make it to the UFC. I'm there. I was there when Sage Northcutt made his debut, when Derek Lewis, made his debut. Even when, Holly Holm, who's a future or is a former UFC champion, when she debuted for LFA. And, I'm there before the UFC fans and even MMA fans really know who these people are. So, for me, building a brand it's helping uplift my platform, and then the up and coming talent and prospects, they get a benefit as well.
And how, because you're super well spoken. And I've heard, we heard you on the MMA Hour a few weeks ago. I've heard you in multiple interviews, and it doesn't seem like this is your second professional MMA fight. Like you seem really, really comfortable at promoting a fight. Have you always been like that, or is it, practice being around other people?
No, this is just who I am. This is just me. I'm very comfortable on the mic, talking. Man, I feel I'm an entertainer, first and foremost. And I'm an entertainer who has fighting skills, and so everything for me is sort of just fall into place. It's all right place, right time, and who And so I've been fortunate enough to sort of take it. Let me pick up the phone. I've been fortunate enough to take advantage of these opportunities that have been given to me.
Right, and taking advantage of these opportunities. Let's talk about your fight this weekend. I know I don't want to call him CM Punk. What do you call him? Phil, correct?
Yeah, his mama named him Phil. I always want to get this phone. His mama named him Phil, so I called him Phil. For me, the CM Punk is a character. It comes from professional wrestling. I understand CM Punk is a former WWE World Champion and all of these, these bigger than life sort of persona. But we're about to get into a real fist fight. There is no CM Punk. He won't have these powers, theoretically. I'm fighting a man. This isn't scripted. And so he's coming in as Phil Brooks, and I can't get caught up in sort of I can't get caught up in the hype and the character of CM Punk. So that's why I call him Phil Brooks, and it's caught on to a lot of people. And, you as I do interviews and people ask me about him, they call him Phil Brooks now instead of CM Punk. So, it's all about branding. It's all about marketing. And that's me. I'm able to do these things. Like what I've done as far as the media personality, although I've had help from, outside people here and there, I built this thing on my own. I built this. It was my vision. And I sort of, again, I had help with it, of course. I didn't do it all by myself. But, the hard work that I put into this, I've done on my own, and, I'm seeing things come to fruition now.
Yeah, it's impressive. Does it ever kind of get under your skin a little bit that Phil gets all this attention? Whereas, you actually have a background in fighting and stand-up fighting. Does it ever get under your skin a little bit that he has this persona, this character?
Not at all, because I'm a business first and foremost. I know people, I'm a businessman, this, that, and the other. Like, I understand how the business works, and I understand why I'm here. So I can't let that bother me. I can't let it get under my skin, because again, I know why I'm here. I just have to take advantage of the opportunities given to me, and so I'm cool with it. It doesn't bother me at all. Again, let them keep doing this thing.
Right on. And the actual fight this weekend, how can you prepare for it at all? Because, we've only seen 90 seconds of him and not much of it at that. Is there anything special that you're doing to prepare for him, or is it just kind of focus on Mike Jackson?
No, I got to focus on Mike Jackson. I can't worry about what he's doing. And again, I understand, where he's coming from. I understand that he's very limited in his skill sets, and it's very hard to train for someone who, really you don't know much about. So I can't focus on what he's doing or what he may do. I have to focus on myself and focus on making me a better fighter, and that's what I've done this training camp.
And that's really what I'm interested in is, can you tell people a little bit about your background, what you're focusing on, and like what can we expect to see from you in the cage?
For me, I've definitely evolved. Again, my background, I have professional boxing matches, kickboxing matches, outside of the UFC. And so, in all those wins, I'm undefeated, 4-0 in boxing, 1-0 in kickboxing, and all of my wins have come via knockout. So for me, I've just been becoming a better striker, but at the same time for this camp, knowing that his striking is nowhere near my level, and I know what he's going to have to do. He's going to have to try to take me down. That is literally his only way to win this fight, is to get me down. But even with that, I feel I'm a better wrestler. I feel my jiu-jitsu is better. So I just feel I'm better all around. The only thing that I would say that he may have over me, he's tougher than me, I guess. Look, I'm a good-looking guy. I don't like getting hit. You know what I'm saying? So for me, that's really his only advantage. But at the end of the day, he's going to understand that there's levels to the sport, and I'm going to show him this weekend, June 9th.
And just for information's sake, where are you training? How long was your camp?
I've been training at Houston Muay Thai out in my hometown. Look, as far as training camp goes, I never stop training. I'm always training. But then I finished my camp up this past week. I was out in Dallas, Texas at Fortis MMA. For those who don't know about Fortis, it's a premier gym in the country. Not just Texas, not just Dallas, but the country. They have several guys in the UFC themselves, guys who've been there. They have, champions, LFA champions. So it's a great group, and Coach Safe, who's the head coach over there, he's phenomenal instructor. And it just so happens that he has one of his guys, Rashad Coulter, who's also on the undercard. So he'll be there. He won't be in my corner, but he will be there for support. He'll be in the back, and look, that's all I need. I have my team, and we're ready to go.
And a few minutes ago, you mentioned Derek Lewis, we on the podcast are big fans of Derek Lewis. Is he?
That's my guy.
I was going to ask, is he always on? Is that guy always joking?
Yo, that's him, 100%. That's him. It's crazy when I first met him. It takes some time for him to warm up to you. So when you first meet him, he's very, very quiet, and he doesn't really say much. And then I remember start seeing him on social media, and I was seeing him making these jokes, and I even hit him up. I was like, yo, who's writing this for you? He was just like, oh, that's all me. And I was like, oh. And then again, as you warm up to someone, they show their real selves, and that is really him, 100%. All the time, every time I'm around him, that's just him. And it's not like he's trying to be someone he's not. He's just being himself.
Do you think that is the way to go to sell a fight, like just being genuine? Or do you think people need to, turn up the volume on their personality?
Well, it's situational, right? And that's a great question, actually. So for me, everything that you see me doing, this is me. When you see Derek do the things and say the things he does, that's him. And I'm not necessarily saying that you shouldn't turn it up, because, not everyone has the gift of gab, and not everyone has that type of charisma, And so in the fight world, sometimes you sort of have to have, those kinds of personalities, But if that's not you, you have to get like a team around you, that can sort of help you with that, One of the things I have, obviously now is Conor McGregor. Hold on, let me step outside. We have Conor McGregor right now, and he's doing his thing. But people are trying to be Conor McGregor right now, And one person in particular that stands out to me is Colby Covington, And now, don't get me wrong, Colby, he's been sort of a trash talker, throughout his career. But since Conor McGregor's come around, he's sort of turned the volume up to like maximum, And with that, and he comes off like a douchebag. He comes off as ungenuine, and he comes off like he's trying too hard. If he was, it's one of those things. It's like there's a fine line, especially when you get to that level of sort of trash talking, like the Conor McGregor. There's a fine line between like witty and funny, which is Conor McGregor, and then just plain like belligerent, mean, and disrespectful, which is now Colby Covington. It's like the guy comes out and the things that he says, like they're not even funny. Like it's not even, and I get it. Maybe he's not trying to be funny. Maybe that's his thing, but it's like, dude, like we're in a sport. You have people watching, and I get it. We're in a fighting sport, but it's still a sport. Whether you're a martial artist, whether you're a wrestler, whatever your background is, it's like you don't have to go like that far to get a fight. Or maybe that's him. Maybe that's what he needs to do to psych himself up. Maybe because he's not that funny, or he's not that clever in saying things, and so he has to kind of take it on the deep end, But to me, I'm all about just being yourself, and I think that's the best way to do it.
Would you ever consider managing fighters, like as a future career, or promoting fights for that matter?
Hey, man, actually, two things that you just asked me, I've always said I'll never do. I did the managing thing for a little bit. One of my managers, again, he saw what I was capable of doing as far as like interacting with people, networking, and communicating. And so I tried it out. It's a headache, man. Fighters are babies, man. And that's really what it is. You're babysitting like adults. And it's not fun at all. And then as far as the promotion side, like I've been in the game a decade, and, I work closely with LFA, and, I see what it takes behind the scenes, and it's not fun. It's a lot of hard work, and it's not for me. So those two things that people really don't ask me anymore, but the two things I would never do are those.
Well, I mean, I ask because you obviously have I want to say an eye for how to promote a fight.
I agree, but like I said, I'm good at promoting my fights.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, that's me.
So let's say Saturday night all goes to plan. You knock out Phil in whatever round. What's next for you? What comes after that?
We'll just have to play it by ear and see. I think with a win on this magnitude, on this level, it's going to open a lot of doors for me. And we'll just have to play it by ear. As far as fighting goes, will depend on how well I do, what kind of performance I put on, possibly another fight in UFC. Obviously, it would be someone of like the entry level sort of fights. Although I know there's great guys at all levels, but obviously I'm not looking for like a top guy. But then there's also the possibility of like a Zuffa boxing. I'm hearing that. I'm hearing good things about that as far as that coming to fruition. So that could be a possibility. But for me, it's not even about the fight. This fight's not even about me. Again, it's about the brand and building, or the brand is there. It's just about making it better, making it stronger, getting more eyes on it, and helping out these other up and coming fighters and these prospects who are right there on the cusp of entering the UFC.
That's interesting. Hearing you talk, it sounds, yes, you're Mike Jackson, the fighter, but honestly, it just sounds you're Mike Jackson, the entrepreneur, the businessman. I'm not sure exactly how to describe you.
100%. I don't like. I'm a jack of many trades. And again, I want to use my platform, the proper way. And I feel, look, I can go in here and I can fight, and And again, I know I'm not at the level of a lot of these other guys in the UFC. Again, I train with guys. Like I said, just at Dallas, so I was training with there's Steven Peterson's in there. There's Rashad Coulters. I can go on and on. Damon Jackson, who's champion. All these guys. Even here, Alex Morano's, Justin Ledette's. I can go on and on about guys who I've trained with and understand what they're doing. For me, it's not about that. I understand what these guys are doing as far as their dedication to the sport. And I feel that every fighter has their own path. And for me, my path isn't to become a UFC champion. My path is simply to entertain and, again, to grow the brand. And that's what I want to use this fight for. And again, that's number one on my priority list.
And I have to ask about this. We talked about it. Kurt and I, who cannot join me for this interview, we talked about it a little bit on the podcast last week. Dana White kind of made some waves when somebody asked him about your fight with Phil being on the pay-per-view over Alistair Overeem, and he pretty succinctly said, well, when Overeem can sell more pay-per-views than CM Punk, then he can be on the pay-per-view. What is your response to people, and it's mostly people within, I would say, the bubble, hardcore MMA bubble that are upset, I guess, for lack of a better word, that your fight with Phil is on the pay-per-view?
Well, first of all, it's silly, right? That they feel this way. First and foremost, you can have your opinion. I respect everyone's opinions, but people have to understand that this is a business first and foremost. And this is a business decision. And these people who are upset and complaining, one, they don't understand business, period. Because if you did, you wouldn't even, that thought wouldn't cross your mind, And the people who feel it's disrespectful, it really doesn't matter. Another thing is, I don't understand how all of these people are upset. So before, it was Alistair Overeem, it was Holly Holm and the Megan Anderson fight, right? When that fight got added, it was added. Overeem was on the pay-per-view, and they flipped him. And my thing is, it's you get to watch these world-class athletes fight for free. Why are you complaining? People just, if I were a fan, I would be happy that this fight is taking place on a paid portion of the card, and you get another fight for free. First of all, the card is stacked from top to bottom, 100%. And you get these types of fights that, again, you get to watch a fight for free. That's a former world title champion, either or, whether it's Alistair Overeem, former champion, or Holly Holm, former champion. You get to watch them for free, and you're complaining about that. I've never heard of someone complaining about they're complaining about saving money. I don't understand that, But like I said, what it comes down to is they don't understand business, and that's it. They're just ignorant to how the game works.
Right. Yeah. It seems painfully obvious to me why your fight would be on the pay-per-view. I guess are you doing additional media during fight week? Are you doing the whole extra interviews and things like that?
Yeah, I'm doing all that, man. This is me. This is what I'm cut out for. I'm a talker. I enjoy speaking, and so I have quite a few interviews scheduled, and it's going to be fun. We're gonna have a great time.
And on you being a talker, I wrote down a question that says, let's say tomorrow you wake up and you are president of the UFC. What does the UFC look like under Mike Jackson?
Man, that is a great question. I've never thought about that, to be honest with you. I think that's a lot of pressure that, I don't like unnecessary pressure. And I feel taking on that type of role is unnecessary pressure in my life. But as far as UFC goes, I like the way it's currently going, currently trending. They're making a lot of great moves, and they're small moves. It's you can't build, what's the saying? You can't, Rome wasn't built overnight.
Correct. Wasn't built in a day.
Right. And so you have to take these small steps. And, one of the first steps that they took was with the Reebok deal. Now, I know it had a bad launch, but they feel that they've ironed it out, and now we're having to deal with, or they're making a deal with ESPN. And, the goal here is to become a top sport, such as the NBA, such as the MLB. And these are the right steps. And again, it takes time. You can't just jump in, head first. You have to take your baby steps. And that's what the UFC is doing. So, you know, I like what they're doing, and I hope they continue the path.
Okay. And one last question before I let you get out of here. Give us your prediction for Saturday night. How does it end? What are we looking at?
Man, we're looking at a highlight reel knockout, you know. And again, so I honestly feel that I could knock him out at any point in the fight, but that doesn't do anything for me. You know, I need to go out there, showcase my skills, and show the world, you know, what I'm capable of doing that unfortunately I was unable to do in the Mickey Gall fight. You know, this is a great opportunity for me to just put my skills on display, and so I can't go out here and just squander that by knocking him out quickly. Because again, I understand that, you know, my talent is far superior than his, especially in the striking background. It's not a downplay on him or anything like that. It's not even being disrespectful. These are just facts. Like, the guy is not on my level remotely when it comes to striking, and I have to go out there and show the world, you know, my striking abilities, and that's going to open so many more doors following the fight.
All right. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much for giving me your time on Fight Week. You're a super well-spoken dude, super intelligent guy, it seems. So I wish you the best of luck on Saturday. Can you let our listeners know where they can find you on social media? Give anybody else a shout out that you would like.
Of course, you know, you can find me on my social medias at The Truth Jackson, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat. Of course, the Truth About Stuff podcast, you can find that at CombatDocket.com/podcast. And, you know, we're on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, all of that. And, you know, people have been asking me how, like, training is going and things like that. And, you know, for this camp, I don't necessarily feel like I've trained the hardest, but I've trained the smartest, and I've been the most efficient. And I've added two recovery methods that are just amazing versus iCryo Sugarland. You know, I know that's the cryo thing is really catching on and helping out tremendously. And the other is Urban Float and the Houston Heights. You know, it's been a tremendous, I can't thank them enough for everything they've done as far as the float tanks and the sensory deprivation. It's been an amazing benefit. And it not only has it helped me as a fighter, but it's helped me as a person as well. So I want to definitely give a shout out to them. And we're going to see the results on June 9th.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Mike.
Thank you, Ben.
Have a good day.
So again, thank you to Mike Jackson for that. It was really cool. He came on again, great interview. And yeah, he definitely different perspective on this fight. So let's talk about the actual. We'll start with this fight and then we'll circle back to the main event and the rest of these. Give me your thoughts on like the actual fight here.
I mean, so I think first and foremost, unless somebody has some sort of inside information into Mike Jackson's training camp or CM Punk's training camp, I don't understand how anybody is talking about this fight with any sort of confidence, because we don't know anything about them. It's like going to your local fights and like your local amateur fights almost, and betting money on the first fights of the night. You know, these guys, neither of them have a ton of experience. But based on what we do know, CM Punk is not young. He had a long, hard career of professional wrestling, which we know is not good on your body before this. We don't know very much about Mike Jackson, other than he does, as he talked about in the interview, he does have a background in striking. He's done professional boxing, professional kickboxing before.
And amateur MMA.
And amateur MMA. That's true. Yes, he had, I believe, like a 1-1 record amateur. I can't remember. But he's been around before. He's not some guy straight off the street. We also know that neither one of them looked very good against Mickey Gall. But that's about it, man. Gun to my head, if I have to pick, I think Mike Jackson gets it done because he has more combat sports experience. He's younger. Presumably doesn't have as many miles on his body. But who knows? You know what I mean? Like, people are talking about you hear some people talk about CM Punk like he's some wizard on the ground. It's, you know, Mike Jackson's been training in grappling basically probably about as long as CM Punk, maybe even longer. So I think Mike Jackson gets it done, but who the hell knows? Because we know so little about either guy.
Well, you know, here's the thing. I think a lot of people are selling Jackson short and making it seem like this is like, two bums going at it. Like, CM Punk literally has, 3 years of MMA training and one, minute-long fight. Or 2 minutes, however long he lasted. That's not the case with Jackson. Like you just said, he's got actual professional fighting experience outside of his Mickey Gall fight. He's fought 2 amateur MMA fights. So it's not like just this bum, celebrity off the street they're putting him in with. I feel like CM Punk is going to be a little bit over his head again. And, he himself missed the open workouts yesterday, too, because of, high anxiety or something.
That's what he said, but I don't know how. I think part of that is he just didn't want to do it, to be honest. I mean, maybe he's anxious. I'm sure everybody gets anxious before those things, but I get the sense that he didn't want to show a lot of his cards. Not that there's necessarily a ton to show, but
he's going through that lawsuit too with WWE. It was like a $4 million lawsuit that he actually just won
a trial, which is it's
yeah.
not, I mean, that's not just like a small court proceeding. That's a huge undertaking. I mean, for his lawyers, but also it takes up a lot of your time as a client to be involved in a trial.
Absolutely. Who do you think has more pressure on them in this fight? Is it Mike Jackson fighting CM Punk in a fight that, I mean, I don't know. I feel like most people think he should win, especially if you actually look into his background to see that he has fighting experience, professional fighting experience, MMA experience, or CM Punk, who is the star, who is pretty much the cash cow on this card. Who do you think has more pressure on them to win this fight?
I think for people in the know, there's more pressure on Mike Jackson because of what you just said. They're expecting him to win. But I also think there's not a ton of pressure on him because if he loses, he's not really losing much. I know he talked in the interview how he's interested in maybe pursuing like Zuffa boxing or something after this. And he himself said, maybe I'll do another UFC fight, but I know it's got to be at a super beginner level. You know what I mean? So there's not a ton for Mike Jackson to lose. I suppose on the other hand, there's not a ton for CM Punk to lose other than, I don't like to talk about things like legacy or things like that because I don't know if something like that really matters. But going 0-2, like if CM Punk gets embarrassed again, that's a rough life to lead. He seems like a pretty confident guy, but he also doesn't really handle like internet trolls very well, and they will come at him strong. But neither guy really has a lot to lose, But I would imagine there's more pressure on CM Punk, especially it's in Chicago. The crowd, I imagine, will be heavily behind CM Punk.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a lot more pressure on CM Punk as well. I think, given the way that the first fight went, I don't know. Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure on him. And for no rhyme or reason, I'm picking CM Punk in this fight. I don't know why. The cards are stacked against him. I'm not expecting some complete polished fighter. But again, he's been training with a good camp. From everything I've heard, he puts in the time. It's not for show. He's about this. He is a good athlete at the end of the day. Professional wrestling is fake, but you still have to be a good athlete. I mean, those guys put their bodies through hell. And he was damn good at it. I'm picking CM Punk. I think he gets beat up a little bit. I think he's going to tough it out, and I think he scores a second-round rear naked choke. Somehow gets to his back in a sloppy manner. Maybe even one of those real sloppy, almost like a bulldog choke, no hooks in. And I think he gets the tap. I also wouldn't be surprised if he gets starched within a minute with a head kick or something crazy. But I'm going with Punk.
I mean, it'll be a fun way to start the pay-per-view. For nothing else, people that turn their nose up at this kind of stuff, get over yourself. It's going to be fun. You're interested to see how it happens, how it goes down. Just, enjoy it. Sit back and enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree. It's entertainment, right?
Yeah.
I mean, come on now. Come on.
Yeah.
It's fun entertainment. I'm excited to see CM Punk fight. Regardless of who he's fighting. It's kind of like the Brock Lesnar thing. Obviously at a much, much lower level, but you wanted to see Brock Lesnar fight, and he turned out a great career. Not that CM Punk is going to do anything like Brock Lesnar did, but hey, I'm all for the freak show fights and the crazy fights, scattered here and there.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's go back to the top of this card. It's headlined by a rematch with defending champion Robert Whittaker fighting Yoel Romero. Again, Romero pulled out of his open workouts because of an eye injury. I haven't heard anything about the status of that. Yoel Romero is not the interim champ at this time because he missed weight in his last fight, given that was a short notice against Rockhold, right?
Correct. Well, like 6 weeks, I think. Not super short, but shorter than normal.
So not super short. He's missed weight before that too, hasn't he?
I don't know. Let me look. Not according to Wikipedia. He's super muscled, but he actually, when you see him in the cage with other middleweights, he actually doesn't always look that big. Like he looks like he has that action figure build, but like his torso is really skinny. He's just super, super muscled.
He is. And it's crazy he's 41 years old.
Yeah.
But those Cubans are always sketchy with their ages, though. I feel like he could be older. I feel like he could be younger. Like, who knows if 41 is legit how old
like the Cuban.
Is.
That's when Cubans peak athletically, 41. Yeah. Marry a Cuban woman and have a child with her.
Yeah, exactly. So, I thought the first fight was awesome. And again, I mean, Robert Whittaker, he hurt his leg in the first, I don't know, 40 seconds to a minute of that fight?
Under a minute. He said that he went into it with a partial tear, but it was a kick that really did the damage early on.
Yeah, and for him to defend takedowns like he did, keep on his bike, keep moving that whole fight, I mean, talk about a tough son of a bitch. Robert Whittaker is. I favor Whittaker here. I think it's going to look a lot like the first fight. I think he's going to be able to keep it on his feet. If he does get taken down, I think he's going to get up. And I think he just has overall better pacing and cardio than Romero. But Romero's one of those guys where from bell to bell, no matter how tired he is, he has the explosive ability to pull something crazy out and end the fight in a second.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was thinking about this fight and rewatching the first fight, and I was trying to think, all right, what does Yoel Romero need to do differently to win this fight, to win the rematch? And it's kind of like it's not like he's never working towards a goal, because he's the expert at losing a fight until he wins it. He's losing a fight until he gets the finish. So it's kind of like, what does he need to do differently? I suppose find the finish. It's almost so simple. It's almost that simple. I do think Romero needs to let his counters go a little bit more, because there were certain stretches of the fight, and I understand he was trying to pace himself and fight at a slower pace, but I want to say the fourth round of their first fight, that Yoel Romero didn't throw a single strike for 3.5 minutes, and Robert Whittaker just will get off on him with super, super fast 2-3 strike combinations, tons of push kicks to the body. I'd like to see Yoel Romero just let his counters fly a little bit more to give Whittaker more pause when he's attacking. But I think you're absolutely right. Whittaker is so goddamn good at setting a pace and fighting at the pace he wants to fight at. Because we know Romero wants to fight slow, wants to slow things down, explode, and hunt for the finish when he has that opportunity. But Whittaker sets such a long range and can dart in and out. So yeah, I think Whittaker gets it done here again. I think he outpaces. He might finish Romero this time, but Romero has a chin from hell. And man, I'm glad that you talked about Whittaker's takedown defense as well, because it is fucking incredible. There was multiple times where Yoel Romero had a full on double unders body lock on Whittaker and couldn't take him down. So I don't know. Do you think Romero will try to grapple any more here or less?
I think he tries to grapple more, honestly. I think Whittaker is just a much trickier striker, and I think Romero knows that. And I just want to circle back to your point of him trying to conserve himself. I think he really shot himself in the foot in that last fight.
Yes, exactly.
Because I thought he won the first 2 rounds, and then he completely took off 3 and 4. And then in the 5th, he tried to come back, and Whittaker was just a better fighter in that 5th round. I don't think he can afford to do that again. I think Whittaker's cardio is too good. I think his pace is too good. So yeah, I think he might try to go to more of a grapple heavy game, even though he's never really been like too much of a grapple heavy guy, because he does have that explosive striking. But again, man, Whittaker is just so tough to take down. He's got great hips. He's got a really good get up game. I favor Whittaker here. And age is on his side too. I mean, Yoel Romero is 41 years old. Like, give or take a couple years, maybe. But yeah, man, I'm going Whittaker again. I think I don't know if he can finish him, but I think he wins a pretty clear cut decision. Retains his title.
I think so too. I mean, their first fight was close in that it was 3 rounds to 2, but it was very obvious that Whittaker won 3 rounds and Romero only won 2. So I could see something like that happening again. I also wouldn't be surprised if I'm of the mindset that Whittaker is going to pull further ahead this time. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he 50-45s Romero here, just outside striking, you know? And those, like you said, Romero in the first fight took off rounds 3 and 4. It backfired because Robert Whittaker spent rounds 3 and 4 like fucking punching or front kicking Yoel Romero in the gut like dozens of times. You know, of course Romero was gassed by the 5th round. So
right.
Yeah, he absolutely cannot afford to take off a round like that again.
No, but again, Yoel Romero is one of the most explosive fighters in MMA. So, I mean, that guy can end a fight in a heartbeat, whether he's down 4-0 or up 4-0. Yeah, man, great matchup though. I'm super excited for it. Co-main event though is man, I am pumped for this one. Rafael dos Anjos, Colby Covington. Again, for the interim title, which doesn't need to be an interim title because it's not the main event. I don't know. I'm happy it's 5 rounds. I don't think it's going to go 5 rounds. But since moving up to 170, dos Anjos has just been an absolute tear. He beat Robbie Lawler last fight out, buzzsawed through Neil Magny, who is one, underrated fighter, tough as nails, beat Tarek Saffiedine in his debut. I was just talking about this with someone today. You remember back in the day when Jeremy Stevens knocked Rafael dos Anjos out to put him to 4-4 in the UFC? He lost to Tyson Griffin in his next fight. His career path and the way he's improved is it's remarkable to me. I mean, that guy, I still say he's one of the best fighters in MMA, period, of weight class. I mean, he's got great striking. He's southpaw, good kicks. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt. He can wrestle. He can grind. I mean, that guy can do it all and do it all really, really well. I think dos Anjos is an awful matchup for Covington. Colby's got, his striking's not bad, a little bit sloppy. I think he's going to have a really hard time getting dos Anjos to the ground. I just don't see it. And I think he gets carved up on the feet, man. I think dos Anjos finishes him within 3 rounds. And that's giving Colby a little bit benefit of the doubt. I mean, I think dos Anjos is just going to buzzsaw through him here.
Wow. Well, I'm not quite as – I'm picking RDA as well. And I actually – you said Colby Covington's striking is not bad. I actually think his striking is bad. He really reaches with his punches, really pushes them, and is not very defensively responsible. He'll get in the pocket and really, when we talk about people watching their work, which means you throw a strike and then you immediately just kind of stand there, or your hand returns to your waist rather than your head. You're not moving your head off the line. Colby Covington does that to the max, and he really kind of leans forward with his head when he throws strikes. I think that's really going to get him into trouble here. I also don't think he can take down RDA, at least consistently. Maybe he can put RDA on the mat once or twice early, but fuck, man, we just saw RDA win a war of attrition against Robbie Lawler, which is pretty incredible. That was a 5-round fight. Yeah. So we just saw RDA hurt. I believe he knocked down Robbie Lawler twice in that fight. and just kind of out-toughed Robbie fucking Lawler. Colby Covington, on the other hand, absolutely did dominate Damian Maia in his last fight. But he also, at least on one judge's scorecard, lost the first round to Damian Maia on the feet, which happened all on the feet. And in the third round, Covington did put a beating on Maia, don't get me wrong, but he was also getting hit by Damian fucking Maia when Maia was incredibly dead, incredibly exhausted. So Covington, he gets hit a lot. He's not particularly big for the weight class. Like, these guys are going to be basically the same size. Covington does have a good deep wrestling background, but we haven't seen like an all-around grappling game to the point where I think he'll be able to consistently control or like take RDA back. I don't think he has that kind of skills on the mat. So yeah, you started off the breakdown by saying this is a terrible matchup for Covington. I absolutely agree. Because his best route for victory is going to be consistently taking down RDA, and I just do not see that happening. RDA has incredible cardio, pretty underrated power, which I think is translated really well to 170.
He is a great combination puncher too.
And he started working with Ken Perillo, and it's really helped. Like, RDA dropped Robbie Lawler in exchanges in the pocket. Like, RDA is not just a super aggressive Brazilian style Muay Thai fighter. He has some legit skills on the feet to complement his overall Muay Thai, which, like, he dropped Lawler with an elbow, I believe. He's a buzzsaw in the clinch with his strikes. It's just hard for me to see Covington consistently putting RDA on the mat, and it's really hard for me to see Covington like outlasting or outpacing RDA. So I don't know if RDA gets it done in under 3, but I do think RDA gets a finish late, like 4th, maybe 5th round, because I just haven't seen enough out of Covington to make me believe that he can fight at a high pace for 5 rounds. He's never had a 5-round fight in his life.
No, and not against the level.
Not against Tony Ferguson and Robbie Lawler. Like, think about that,
Yeah. Again, I mean, you look at Covington's resume. Dong Hyun Kim, a solid win. Damian Maia is a solid win. And then he's fighting, B-level fighters. I mean, Rafael dos Anjos is at the top of this sport. Yeah, I just don't think – not only is it a bad matchup, I just don't think Covington has been in there with anybody, remotely near the level of dos Anjos. Again, Damian Maia is a specialist, right? Dos Anjos is excellent everywhere. Yeah, I don't see Covington having much a chance here. But man, is he embracing that bad guy persona.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is.
He loves it. He loves it. And again, some of the shit he does is questionable. The gimmick is starting to wear on me a little. Like, I like the bad guy gimmick. Some of the shit he says and does is a little bit stupid. And he actually had some pretty good gems this week. But did you see the clips of him at the press conference when they were all chanting Colby sucks?
Oh, yeah. And he embraces it.
He loves it, yeah.
You know what bugs me is that his gimmick is starting to work on me, not because the things he says like make me angry. It's because his gimmick is so bad that I want to see him lose, if that makes any sense. It's not like I'm not buying into the bad guy part of it. Like, he doesn't, it's not like, I want to see the bad guy lose. It's, I want to see the uncreative, unfunny guy lose. It's really honestly how I feel about it. But I suppose in a roundabout way that's working.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think Dos Anjos is going to put a serious halt on the Colby Covington gimmick. I think he's going to absolutely wreck him in this fight, but we'll see, man. Imagine if Colby wins and gets that belt around his waist. Can you imagine his interview afterwards?
Whew. If he wins, he's a guy. He is a dude for sure.
Because, he is the dude.
Yeah, yeah.
The Colby Covington, Tyron Woodley, I thought they dropped the ball on that. Now if this guy has a belt around his waist, whew,
yeah,
that is the fight to make. That will get me up for a Tyron Woodley fight. Not much does, that will.
That's true. Because assuming if RDA wins here, RDA Woodley is not going to get it done. I think Covington Woodley probably would.
Yeah, I get up for RDA in any fight. Tyron Woodley, not so much. If it's Colby versus Tyron, yeah, I know. Tyquill Woodley, that's a good one.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's relentless too. Like if you look at him, he comments on every single post. Like the UFC will put something out and he'll make a stupid comment. I give it to him though. He's dedicated to his craft.
And he put himself in this position. Like his record alone did not deserve Damian Maia or this fight. But he's put himself in this position just by being the way he is.
A jackass. Yeah. All right. Moving down the card, we have a big women's featherweight bout. Holly Holm taking on Megan Anderson. Let me ask you this about Megan Anderson. Do you buy into the hype, or do you think she's bigger because she's one of the only true, legit featherweight females out there? She won the Invicta belt. Or do you think she's a little bit, I guess you could say overrated? Like, what's your view on Megan Anderson?
I think there's certainly some overrating going on there because exactly what you just said. I think the narrative going into this fight is and will be how just her size. It will just be talking about how big Megan Anderson is, how she's a legitimate featherweight, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But her,
and she is a big girl too.
I've met her and interacted with her in person. She is like an athletic specimen. She is tall, like broad shoulders, pretty heavily muscled, all that good stuff. She'll be one of the few women that's had a size advantage over Holly Holm in the cage. I definitely believe that. But I do think there's a bit of an overhype going on here with Megan Anderson. She won the interim Invicta featherweight championship, and she won it in January of 2017, so a year and a half ago at this point, against Charmaine Tweet, who is, had a winning. I think she was 9-5 when she fought Megan Anderson. She has wins over Peggy Morgan, Amanda Bell.
Exactly.
This is not a huge resume, and just skill wise, like if we watch Megan Anderson fight, she likes to pressure and she likes to use her size well, but she doesn't use her length well. She also is not a great counter puncher, and she likes to move forward without moving her head, which is like just a fucking recipe for disaster against Holly Holm. We saw fucking Ronda Rousey did it, and it did not work out well. So I think Megan Anderson is going to move forward on Holly Holm here and just run in left hand after left hand, get tired. She's not particularly fast. She hits hard and she's big and she's good in the clinch. But we've seen Holly Holm defend really well in the clinch. I think Megan Anderson is going to walk forward into a lot of counter strikes from Holly Holm and get tagged up on the feet, get tired. I don't know if she'll get finished, but I wouldn't be surprised if late in the fight we see Holly Holm really go off with like front kicks and head kicks, because Megan Anderson hasn't shown me that she can fight at a really good pace.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you said, man. Just looking at Megan Anderson's record, she's fought nobody near the likes of Holly Holm. Who you look at her record, she's beaten Pennington, Rousey, she's fought Miesha Tate, Shevchenko, Durandamy. And in her last fight, speaking about the size, she just fought the most physical, biggest woman out there in Cyborg, and arguably gave Cyborg her toughest fight to date. She's a tough nut to crack on the feet, and she's one of those people that can just stick to a game plan. She listens well, and she never really veers from her game plan. I just think, like you said, I think Anderson's a little bit too raw. It's a big step up in competition for her. She's going to be chasing a lot against Holly Holm, and that's exactly what Holm wants. Holm could stick and move on her bike, and when she has to, she plants well and can throw with power. I don't think she finishes Anderson, but you never know. One of those high kicks to sneak up late in the fight. I think Holm really dominates here, wins a clear-cut decision.
Yeah, and something that also a narrative going into this fight is that Holly Holm is she's getting up there in age. She's not a young fighter. Megan Anderson is young. I think she's 29 or maybe 30 now, but she's pretty young. And that Holm is like 1-4 in her last 5. But those 4 losses were, the Hail Mary finish against Miesha Tate way back in 2016, a super close loss to Valentina Shevchenko, a super close loss to Germaine de Randamie, and then, a decision loss to Chris Cyborg. So those 4 losses I don't think are necessarily terrible things for Holly Holm. I mean, it doesn't look good on her record when you see all that red in her Wikipedia page, but I don't think there's much to be made about her recent run.
Absolutely not. I'm with you there 100%. But I will say I'm very excited for this fight. This again, this card is so stacked, but this is definitely one that I have circled a little bit brighter than the others. I'm excited for it. We'll talk about the 2 heavyweight fights now. I personally think Overeem Blaydes should be on the main card as opposed to Arlovsky, Tuivasa. But again, they got the other 2 Aussies on the card, and Whittaker and Megan Anderson. So maybe that's why they did it. It's crazy to me too that in 2018, Andrei Arlovsky is still fighting in a meaningful fight on a pay-per-view main card. But he is, and this just feels like a fight where it's set up for Tuivasa to win. He's one of those fresh faces in the division that needs it. He's 7-0, 7 knockouts, and that's just, I think that just spells disaster for Arlovsky. He's young, he's hungry. The biggest question for me, I think my pick is it gets Arlovsky out there within the first round. The real question for me is he going to do another shoey or not after the fight? And I really hope he does.
Man, I lived in Chicago for 7 years, and if they do not give him a shoe filled with fucking like PBR or Hams, some sort of shitty beer within like 30 seconds of him walking out of the cage, then that's not the city that I know.
Wait, but do you know like the like what they actually do with the shoeies where they like spit in them and shit like that?
What? No, I thought it was just a beer in a shoe.
Dude, so I forget who it was. One of those guys was on Helwani's show not too long ago, and he's talking about the actual shoey. Like those guys, like it's not only beer. Dude, they like spit in it, hawk loogies, like snot rockets. After that, I was like, dude, that's fucking disgusting. Like, I'm not really cool with that. I think the shoe thing is cool. Like, I hope they don't spit in it.
I mean, if it's off of your foot though, like, what worse? How much worse is it going to?
No.
Foot all day.
If I was drunk enough, I would probably do a shoey just out of the shoe. I don't think. I mean, again, it's kind of gross, especially depending on whose shoe it is. But if you're hawking loogies in it, like, no, thank you. That's disgusting.
I mean, we'll see. As far as the fight goes, I do think Tuivasa gets it done early. I think Arlovsky might try to grapple with him here. He's been pretty like wily in his recent fights, but
he has, and I think that would be a smart plan.
But I think Tuivasa is just too big and too powerful. He's not. I mean, he's real big. Like I think he has to watch what he eats to get to 265, but he's not necessarily super slow. And I think he is in good enough shape to be dangerous the entire time. So, maybe Arlovsky gets him down or something, but I think Tuivasa will be threatening him throughout the entire fight. And that's trouble for Arlovsky.
It was Tyson Pedro who was on the show talking about the shoey because Tuivasa's married to Tyson Pedro's sister. That's who it was. That's disgusting. By the way, have you ever seen the videos of people doing like chugging beers out of like prosthetic legs? How drunk would you have to be to do that?
I mean, less drunk than I would have to be to do a shoey, I think, because
no way. So you're telling me you would chug a PBR out of a prosthetic leg before a shoe?
Yeah, because it's like plastic and shit. A shoe, you got like sock lint and athlete's foot all up around your face. Like, I don't know.
I don't know, man. Something about the prosthetic leg just throws me off. I'd pick the shoe. But no spit, no loogies, nothing like that.
Well, if Tuivasa will fit in well in the drinking culture of Chicago if he wins, for sure.
Yeah. Any Chicago fans, pass this on. If Tuivasa wins, give him your shoe filled with PBR or some other shitty beer. All right. So I personally think the Overeem Blaydes fight is going to be more competitive. It's definitely a clash of styles. You know, Blaydes is a really good wrestler. Blaydes doesn't get enough credit for his skill set. I mean, he's a pretty decent boxer. And like I said, his wrestling, his top game is really good. He can fight 3 hard rounds. He can stick to a game plan. But Overeem's a tough nut to crack. He's got great striking, great power. He throws a really good front kick. You know, he has really good knees coming in. And he's actually a pretty crafty grappler too. I don't think he gets enough credit for his grappling. You know, we haven't seen it in many years. What are your thoughts on this fight? Do you think Blaydes is going to be able to get Overeem down early and often, or do you think Overeem is going to be able to find some way to get the finish or even pull out a decision here?
I think Blaydes is going to struggle to get Overeem down. I do want to say though is both these guys are trending in opposite directions, with Overeem coming off of just a horrific knockout against Francis Ngannou, and Blaydes really, really impressed me in his last fight against Mark Hunt, because and you brought it up too. You said that Blaydes could fight for a full 3 rounds. If you remember that fight, you know, Blaydes was kind of messing around a little bit too much on the feet against Mark Hunt early, and then just adjusted and really, I thought, showed some great fight IQ to get Mark Hunt to the ground in rounds 2 and 3, where he was just really kind of patiently waiting for Mark Hunt to give him an opportunity to get under his counter strike and take him down. So for me, you know, Blaydes showed quite a bit of smart fighting there against Mark Hunt, which he is definitely going to need against Overeem. Because if Blaydes is a smart fighter, I think Overeem is doubly smart, to be honest. He sometimes he doesn't come back. Like sometimes if you really put it on Overeem, he has this tendency and a reputation of never being able to fight back out of a bad position. So maybe if Blaydes gets on top and can really put a hurting on Overeem early, then we'll see kind of what we think of as classic Overeem kind of giving up. But that said, Overeem is a really difficult guy to take down. And we've seen late career Overeem is like just perfectly happy to stick and move, throw like 4 or 5 strikes a minute, and just win a fight by decision if he needs to. But he's never going to force anything. He's not going to just give Curtis Blaydes opportunities to take him down. So my tentative pick, or my pick without much confidence, is Alistair Overeem by decision. But like I said at the top, they're trending in different directions, and Curtis Blaydes really has been impressing me lately. So, you know, maybe he gets on top early and just puts a hurt on Overeem. But I think Overeem can stick and move for 3 rounds here.
Yeah, Overeem's kind of like Arlovsky, where late in his career he's become a really wily veteran. Like you said, he's not objected to just stick and move, pick his shots. I'm going with Overeem as well, but I think he's going to bring back one of his favorite submissions. I think he's going to catch Blaydes with a knee or something. Blaydes going to shoot in on a sloppy takedown. He's going to lock up a guillotine and actually get the tap of the guillotine, unlike the Miocic fight. I'm going Overeem by late rounds guillotine here.
A lot of times heavyweight MMA can be real sloppy, but both these guys can fight for a full 15 minutes. Both of them have pretty well-rounded skills. Blaydes' striking is coming along, but I'm pretty pumped about this fight. This is for me one of the best fights on the entire card.
Yeah, I agree, man. We got a big fight in the women's strawweight division on this card. Claudia Gadelha is returning to fight Carla Esparza, former champ. Gadelha last fought in September 2017. She lost that crazy fight to Anjos. I mean, that was one of the best chick fights I've seen. Those chicks went nuts on each other. Prior to that, she had beat Courtney Casey and wrecked Carolina Kovacevic. I tend to think this is a bad matchup for Esparza, because Esparza is really wrestling dependent. If she has to strike for long periods of time, she doesn't have a lot of power. I just think she needs the takedown to get her offense going and to have a successful fight. And I just don't think she's going to be able to get Gedalia down much at all. I think Gedalia is just a bigger fighter, the more physical fighter. Esparza is crafty, but again, Gedalia is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. She does have a good ground game. I think Esparza does have a bit better of a motor. But again, that's going to be dependent on how much she can wear on Gedalia, if she can get her down. I don't think so. I think Gedalia is going to finish her. I'd probably say in the second round. She's going to clip her, hurt her, and just pound her out on top.
Yeah, I mean, I mostly agree. I do think it's a rough matchup for Esparza here because she is so wrestling dependent. She does have some tricks up her sleeve. Every once she definitely doesn't hit particularly hard. But against Calvillo, she showed some skills on the feet. She showed some smarts. The problem with Esparza, at least recently and moving forward, is that her wrestling is so like old school style, if that makes any sense. She doesn't blend it well with her striking. Like, she's one of the few fighters that you'll see when she shoots her double leg in MMA, she drops all the way to a knee, which you just don't see people doing a lot anymore, because it's risky business to drop all the way to a knee to shoot a double leg in MMA. I don't think Gedalia finishes her here, but I do think Gedalia, for the most part, can keep it on the feet and outbox Esparza. But I also wouldn't be surprised, like, Esparza, if we know one thing about her, when she gets on top, she's really good at keeping it on top and doing just enough to keep a stand-up from happening. So don't be surprised if Esparza gets a round or two here. No, definitely not two. Don't be surprised if Esparza gets a round here. What surprises me, though, is that Gedalia is in some books, a minus 600 favorite, which I don't know if I agree with that at all. I think it's a lot closer fight than minus 600.
I would think it should be in like the minus, like maybe like 300 range, 350. I think she deserves to be a big favorite here. I don't think it's anywhere near a pick'em fight, but 600 is way, way too steep.
Yeah. And I think part of my trepidation is that when Gedalia fought Andrade, but I think both you and I picked Gedalia because we thought she'd be able to defend the takedown. And I'm not saying Esparza is as good of or as physical of a takedown artist as Andrade is, but
that's the thing.
But Gedalia her wrestling defense really kind of surprised me in that fight. I thought she'd be just a lot better at defending the takedown, and she wasn't. But yeah, I mean, there's obviously a huge difference in physicality between Andrade and Esparza, so I don't think Esparza will be able to get her down quite so easily.
Yeah, I agree here, there, man. I personally think Gedalia finishes her, but we'll see. That's another one I'm excited for. Mirsad Bektic returns to fight Ricardo Lamas. Big step up for Bektic here. He lost that fight to Darren Elkins, which is one of the craziest comebacks in a long time. He kind of started to slow down, and then Elkins somehow finished him, but that's Darren Elkins. Lamas seems like he's kind of on the tail end of his career. He's starting to trend downwards. Lamas was so just a model of consistency throughout his career. You look at the guys he's faced and lost to. I mean, he's lost to Aldo, Mendez, Holloway. Those are before the Emmett fight. Those were his only losses since 2011. So he's fought big names. He's beaten big names. But I think Bektic gets him at the right time at this point. I think Bektic. If you haven't seen Mirsad Bektic fight, man, are you in for a treat? That guy is all action, great skill set, and yeah, I think he's catching Lamas at a good time. I don't think he finishes Lamas, but I think he wins I don't even know about clear cut. I think he wins a decision. I don't think he dominates him, but I think he gets a big name on his resume here.
Yeah, I tend to agree, and I do think that Lamas is on the tail end of his career here. He just opened up a big gym in Chicago. I think he's kind of in the part of his career where he's made a fair amount of money and he's ready to transition to other things. And I don't think Bektic is about that life of being halfway in, halfway out. I think Bektic will honestly be able to get Lamas down here. I think Lamas will threaten a lot of guillotines, a lot of front chokes, and we know Lamas is a finisher, especially with his front chokes. But short of Lamas getting a guillotine, I think Bektic pressures him and puts him up against the cage and puts him down in maybe every single round. But Lamas, like I said, the guy is a finisher, and he's kind of one of those guys who is losing a fight until he wins, which is kind of crazy at 145, but that's the way he is. So, but I think Bektic is just a little too physical, too young, and too aggressive here.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. Bektic is a phenomenal wrestler. Puts on a good pace, throws bombs. But again, this is another fight that I'm excited to see. Rashad Evans taking on Anthony Smith here. His return to light heavyweight. And if you look at Rashad Evans' record, man, it's sad. He's lost his last 4 fights. He lost to Ryan Bader and Glover Teixeira. Okay. 2 of the top guys at light heavyweight. And then he loses to Dan Kelly and Sam Alvey, both by split decision. But, I mean, those felt like gimme fights for Rashad. And I think both of those fights were significantly more winnable or, maybe even more favorable than fighting Anthony Smith, who is just a big guy, a really good striker, and a pretty slick grappler too. Man, I have a tough time seeing Rashad winning this fight. It brings up, when is enough enough? I know he's trying to get that last win, and maybe it'll be here and right off into the sunset, but it's getting sad to watch him nowadays.
Yeah, and the last 2 losses to Dan Kelly and Sam Alvey were particularly bad, not because Rashad Evans showed a super shaky chin or anything like that, but they were bad just because he looked unwilling to pull the trigger.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Especially against Dan Kelly, there were moments where I remember watching that fight, yelling at the TV screen, just shoot, man. Because he was still explosive, especially compared to Dan Kelly. All due respect to dad bod Dan Kelly. But Rashad Evans, when he would flash his athleticism, it looked like, all right, if he just shoots a blast double leg, he's going to put Dan Kelly on his ass here. And he didn't. Counters were open for him, and he just was not pulling the trigger. Anthony Smith is kind of tricky off of his back, but he also has terrible takedown defense. But just based on what we've seen out of Rashad Evans lately, I don't think he's going to get it done against Anthony Smith. If he does, he's going to have to just fucking old school style commit to your takedown and put Anthony Smith on his butt, because he can do that for sure. And maybe, he has concerns about cardio because he's getting up there in age. He doesn't want to wrestle for so long, but I'd like to see him get the win here. I'm not sure he does.
Yeah, I really can't see it. I think Anthony Smith is much scarier on the feet than both Sam Alvey and Dan Kelly. And if you're not going to, like you said, against Dan Bod Kelly, if you're not going to pull the trigger in that fight, I see him having a really hard time of getting past that mental block of pulling the trigger against Anthony Smith. He throws a lot of head kicks. He's got good knees. He's good in the clinch. He's very long. He's got he actually uses his length pretty well. I like Anthony Smith a lot, but it's always good to see those guys, they're trying to get one final hurrah win to get it. But this is a tough matchup for him. Joe Benavidez, Sergio Pettis. Why is this on the Fight Pass prelims? This fight could headline a fight night, Joseph Benavidez has long been the perennial number 2 flyweight in the world. I mean, it's DJ, then him, and then everybody else. But he hasn't fought since 2016, December 2016. His last fight was against Henry Cejudo, who beat Sergio Pettis in his last fight. I think Pettis has gotten better and better each of his fights. But, I mean, man, Joe Benavidez has 4 losses on his record to Dominic Cruz and Demetrius Johnson. That's it. Ring rust might be a factor here. I just can't see Sergio Pettis jumping up that level and beating Benavidez. I think Benavidez mixes up his takedowns really well. He's got really fast, explosive striking. A lot of one-shot striking, but it's fast, explosive. He has power for that division. I don't know, man. I'm going Benavidez here. I think he finishes Pettis late in the 3rd round.
I kind of disagree that Sergio Pettis is getting better and better, to be honest. As sad as it sounds, he he'll flash these skills on the feet that are really impressive. Like he's actually a damn good pocket boxer. Like he's really comfortable, not even a pocket boxer, but like a pocket striker, because he'll throw a head kick in the middle of an exchange in the pocket. So Pettis he'll flash these skills on the feet, but in his last fight against Cejudo, I just saw like no urgency from him. And he's only 24, or he was only 24 during that fight. No urgency to get back to his feet. When he was on his feet, there was no urgency to hurt Cejudo to prevent him from taking him down again. I was just honestly kind of disappointed in Sergio Pettis in the last fight. And barring some sort of crazy ring rust from Benavidez, I think Benavidez will be able to, exactly like you said, mix up his takedowns. We haven't seen a lot of evidence that Pettis can get back to his feet if he is taken down. So that for me, that seems like a recipe for disaster. Somebody who doesn't show much urgency is the type of guy who's going to lose to Joseph Benavidez, who does fight with a lot of urgency, who's like kind of pedal to the metal the entire fight, like from opening bell to end. He's there. I also think Benavidez has been working with Dwayne Ludwig, the past few years, and I do think he's actually putting together more combinations, more like punching and kicking combinations together, blending punches and kicks. So we might see some new skills out of Benavidez, which is interesting a little bit later in his career. But yeah, man, I think Pettis honestly has maybe plateaued. I hope he proves me wrong, but I think he's plateaued a little bit at this point in his career.
Would you be down to see another DJ versus Benavidez fight if Benavidez does win?
I guess it depends on how he looks here. But I guess we can talk about this at the end of the episode. But I think they just announced Demetrius Johnson is fighting a rematch against Henry Cejudo.
I did see that. And man, a little bit off topic, but I will watch Demetrius Johnson fight anybody. I don't care that it's a rematch. I just really appreciate that dude. I think he is just so goddamn good. And he's just underappreciated. And when he's gone, I feel like people are going to be missing him a lot. I mean, and again, another thing too about that fight was Cejudo got pushed into that fight really early. I think Cejudo is leaps and bounds better than he was when he first fought DJ. His striking looks excellent, and he's a world Olympic champion wrestler. So, yeah, I'm excited for that fight, and I would be excited for another Benavidez fight should Benavidez win here.
Yeah, we're the same. That I'll sign me up for any Demetrius Johnson fight, basically.
Real quick before we move on to something else, Clay Guida, Charles Oliveira. Oliveira stepping in on late notice for who pulled out of the Guida fight?
Bobby Green.
Bobby Green. I am more excited for this fight than the Guida Bobby Green fight. I'm going Guida.
He's not losing a decision in Chicago. That's my outlook on it.
And Charles Oliveira sometimes struggles against wrestlers. I think Guida takes him down and beats him up. Classic Guida. Yeah, in Chicago.
Yep.
All right. So if you haven't heard, and I don't have they been doing a good enough job of this, but PFL makes its return tonight. They are going to be, let me see here. Let me pull that up. I believe it's what, NBC Sports, right? They're still on NBC Sports. Do you know the start time for that?
I believe 8 Eastern is tonight for PFL.
And what is it? I believe they're going to be airing every other Thursday.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I like it. So, man, I was looking at their cards too, and they got a lot of really, really good fighters on their roster. Like, I'm excited for this. Andre Harrison's fighting tonight. He's undefeated. I mean, the guy's a stud. He's fighting Juma. Oh God, it's yours. I don't know how to say that guy's name. I know nothing about him, but Lance Palmer's on the card. They got Timur Valiev's on the card. Alex Nicholson's on the card. This is a solid card. Marcos Galvao, former Bellator champ, is on this card. But that main event, Andre Harrison's a guy to keep an eye on. And it's MMA on a Thursday. So what else are you going to do?
That's true. I mean, the big question moving forward with PFL will be how long. How long can they keep it up? Can they stay in business? Can they keep, TV contracts, all that good stuff? But, they have this huge roster. So hopefully they run with it.
Yeah, I'm rooting for them, but that's definitely a good question. How long are they going to be able to sustain this? I mean, they're doing something new, like this regular season and playoff thing, all these $1 million tournaments, a lot of big names in it. I'm excited for its debut. So that happens tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern. It's actually taking place at MSG. So let me get your thoughts on this Yair Rodriguez situation.
I guess so. If a quick recap is that he was released by the UFC. There were conflicting stories, that the UFC and Dana White said that he refused to take fights that were offered to him. He said, no, not so much. I just asked for different terms, maybe a different time or more money. And he was released. And then what was it, like 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks later, it's announced that he is back in the UFC and has accepted the fight that they wanted him to take initially against Zabit Magomedsharipov. My take is that, this is strong arm tactics from the UFC that worked for them. I guess we don't know the exact deal. So, maybe there's a chance that Yair Rodriguez called the UFC's bluff, but I really don't think that's the case. I think this was just a strong arm tactic by the UFC, and it worked for them. And they sent a message to every other fighter that wants to negotiate different terms for different fights to say, hey, we're not fucking around. We're willing to release one of our biggest, brightest stars. Unless you think you're a bigger name than him, we're going to release you. So from a management side, if you're in the UFC front office, you got to be celebrating because you just, called this guy's bluff and won. So it's I guess kind of shitty for the fighters, but moving forward, this is a sign that this is how the UFC is willing to do business.
Yeah, I agree. And from what I heard, I think Combate Americas offered Yair or something, but then they pulled out pretty quick. I don't know if it was because they knew that he was going to get back with the UFC, but I'm surprised, Bellator or PFL, you didn't hear more about people jumping all over Yair Rodriguez.
Yeah.
I mean, he's young. Yeah. He's a great prospect. He's got a great record. I thought he would have been a million calls to him.
Maybe there was, I don't know, but he's also somebody who needs to, he's definitely thinking about his long-term future. He probably plans to fight for another 8-9 years. He's not like Gegard Mousasi, who is really just when Mousasi left the UFC for Bellator, I guarantee you it was just kind of a strictly financial decision. Whereas I think, Yair Rodriguez was making a financial decision as well, but he's taking into account, all right, maybe Bellator can offer me more on a per fight basis, but my long-term career, I can make more money if I stay with the UFC. I think that may have probably went into his decision making. But yeah, I mean, I would imagine he got all kinds of other offers, but who knows? Maybe there was less than what he had hoped. And who knows? Maybe the UFC did sweeten it. I mean, we assume that it was a strong arm tactic from the UFC, but who knows? Maybe the UFC sweetened the deal a little bit for Yair Rodriguez. But he's taken the fight that they wanted him to take, which according to him, he was willing to take it. He just wanted more money or more time.
I'm in for that fight too, man. I'm not on that.
Oh yeah. Great fight.
It's a great fight. Like I said a couple weeks ago, he loses one fight to Frankie Edgar, and all of a sudden he's a bum. And I mean, Zabit is pretty much in the same place that Yair was before the Frankie fight. I'm all for it, man. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be action-packed, and I'm glad he's back.
Yeah, agreed.
So a little bit of bad news. I just went to Nolan King's Twitter account Nolan King is the dude with tweeting out fight announcements. Apparently, Brad Tavares is out of the Israel Adesanya fight in the TUF 27 finale. That's a bummer. But I guess Thiago Santos threw his name in. Whoever it is, I'm hoping they keep him on that card in that main event slot.
Yeah, it's a bummer. They'll find somebody because Adesanya is a big enough name. A lot of fighters are going to want to fight him. obviously a lot of fighters think they can beat him at this point in his career. And he's not like, it's not Zabit that we're talking about, or, you know, some guy who's like in the top 5 where a lot of people are going to be thinking twice. I think there's whatever. They'll be able to find an opponent for Adesanya. I'm sure of that.
Yeah, I hope so, man. Another big fight that just got announced, Justin Gaethje taking on Al Iaquinta.
Yeah.
I am pumped for that one. I love when both of those guys fight. That should be a fun one. That's going to take place in Lincoln, Nebraska, right?
Yeah, I'm planning on being in the building for that one. I feel like I was texting a friend earlier today about it. I was like, seeing a Justin Gaethje fight live is like a bucket list thing. Like you have to make it happen. And I feel like we only have, sadly, I don't know how many more Justin Gaethje fights we're going to be blessed with. So I got to see it live.
Yeah, I'm jealous, man. Are you close to Nebraska? No, right?
Yeah. Like 3-hour drive.
Really? Oh, hell yeah. Not bad. Definitely well worth
Absolutely.
it. Before we get off of this, let's just do opinions on 2 things. What do you have any opinion on this whole Andrea Lee thing with her husband's swastika tattoo?
I have strong opinions, yes.
Are those opinions that you want to share?
Sure. It's that I'll try to be brief here, but so people don't know, like Andrea Lee, UFC fighter, her husband, who she posted a picture of herself with her husband, has on one arm a swastika and on the other the like SS, they call it, like, whatever, Nazi symbol. The issue, I mean, those are super offensive symbols. Obviously, like that goes without saying. In terms of like MMA and like Andrea Lee, because, you know, she's the fighter, she responded to people. Her initial response was, I think it was like, the quote was, "There's some sensitive ass mofos." It's like, are you fucking kidding me? Sensitive.
That's my problem with it. That was so stupid of her.
To call people sensitive for being like, there's a swastika on your husband's arm. Like they're not being sensitive. Like that's one of the most, or like, if not the most offensive symbol in like the modern world right now. Like across all boards, like that's just a symbol of hate. Then like there's been a multiple follow-up, you know, statements from her husband and her, and they're now saying like, well, it's hard to cover it up because it would look more redneck or it would look terrible. It's like, dude, if you like, what do you think would look worse than a fucking swastika on your arm? You know? So my opinion is that it's been handled horribly. And I have not made it a secret about my disgust for how the situation has been handled. And the idea that you don't want to get a swastika cover up because you're worried that it's going to look bad is, like, honestly, that's some shit a racist says.
Yeah, I'm with you there, man. I'm more had, I don't want to say it like that. The tattoo is idiotic.
He said he got
stupid.
He said he got it in prison, and it, like that's behind him. But yeah,
and that may be true, right? People make mistakes. People can be forgiven, but the way they handled it was so freaking stupid. That's my big problem with it. I mean, not only that the tattoo is disgusting, but the way they handled it. I mean, it's just they deserve everything that's coming down on them. That was idiotic, man. You know, it's a big thing, so I wanted to bring it up. But man,
yeah,
morons.
Yeah, absolutely, morons or racists. Like the fact that your initial reaction isn't like horror that somebody found out about this might mean that you're actually a racist.
So and this is why I wanted to bring this up. Do you think there's any chance she gets cut because of this?
I don't think so. Because it's not her. And I mean, she's handled it poorly, but she at least has been like, it's his body. He can do what you know what I mean? She's handled it poorly, but
right.
You know, the UFC, we got fucking Greg Hardy, domestic abuser, fighting for the UFC in a couple weeks. So I don't think they're gonna
That's true.
cut her for this.
But I think at the very least they look into their history.
The UFC would be smart to make sure, like, does she have any ties to this, or like, does she have any skeletons in her closet that's gonna hurt us? Yeah,
I agree. So last thing, so Dana White on the UFC Unfiltered podcast the other day said that they are going to look to do away with the early weigh-ins and go back to just the regular live nightly weigh-ins. What do you think about that?
You know, I don't have a super strong opinion on it. I think the stat that sticks out to everybody is that, like, in the 2 year, I might get the numbers wrong here, but in the 2 years prior to early weigh-ins, like 32 fighters missed weight or something like that. And in the 2 years of early weigh-ins, 60 some fighters, so almost twice as many fighters have missed weight under the early weigh-ins regime. So if it's you know, the plan is for fewer fighters to miss weight, I guess I'm fine with that. I thought the idea of early weigh-ins was to give fighters more time to rehydrate. But I don't know. You know, I don't know if there's a ton of science behind that. I don't know if that's actually the case. I also think it might be the case that early weigh-ins have caused fighters to cut more weight. So it's actually kind of backfired because they think, oh, I can cut more weight because I have more time to recover. But I don't know. I don't have a super strong opinion on it. I wish they would have asked fighters rather than doing this unilaterally. But, you know, because you've seen fighters, definitely a lot more fighters come out against it than in favor. But that's probably because the ones that are in favor of it are the ones that have missed weight and they kind of want to be quiet.
Yeah, tons of fighters seem really pissed off about this, but why don't they just make it optional?
Like you could weigh in.
You could either weigh in early,
like between 9 and 4, like have that whole window open.
Listen, they're already there twice. They're already weighing in the morning and doing the ceremonial ones at night. Why don't you just make it optional? Keep it as is. You can weigh in the morning or you can weigh in at night. Everybody's happy. Again, collective bargaining though, we need that in this sport.
This is absolutely like exactly the type of thing that a fighters union would handle, because they'd be able to fucking vote on it or try to negotiate it into a collective bargaining agreement with the UFC.
Who knows where we are at that point? I mean, are we going to get it? Are we not going to get it? Who knows? Project Spearhead doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. You know, all these things we think, I don't know.
Well, it'll be, I mean, Leslie Smith has a case pending in the National Labor Relations Board, and I mean, we'll have plenty of time to talk about this because the NLRB works super slowly, but her case basically asks them to decide whether fighters are independent contractors or employees. And then once that's, if the NLRB decides that they are employees, then they can collectively bargain. So a lot of that kind of hinges on Leslie Smith's legal case, oddly enough.
I don't know, man. I think we need it. So I guess hopefully she wins, right?
Yeah, I hope so.
We miss anything?
That's it. I mean, we'll have some down weeks in the coming weeks, so we'll have some interesting stuff coming up. But man, 225, I'm pumped.
Yeah, man, I am too. And don't forget PFL tonight, the relaunch, PFL 1. There's some solid fighters on the card, some vets. Big prospect in the main event, undefeated Andre Harrison. Check it out. Until next week, enjoy the fights, and we'll talk to you all soon.